Hello YouTube, welcome to my new video. I'm going to be doing some further experiments with physics in VisionOS, and I wanted to learn about physicsMotion. So I just did a simple experiment. This is a continuation of the last video where I introduced materials, entities, and physics, dynamic, kinematic, and static. First of all, I just wanted to move each of the objects, and I wanted to introduce a force onto the objects to see if I could move them with code, not with my click drag input. I wanted to see if I could move an object on its own accord. And in order to do that, here I have the code that I showed you earlier, which is the colors, the entities, and the collisions. And I just added several lines here. Right here. So, okay, first of all, we know that cube 1 won't be able to move because it's a static entity. I'm going to put that over here so you can see that. So it's static. Let's try moving it anyways to see what happens. I know in theory it's not going to move, but I want to just prove that. So in order to add motion and add a force to your objects, you want to use this physicsBody init, physicsMotion.init, and then you can add linear velocity or angular velocity. So I just did that here. And there's two ways that I know of to add that linear velocity. You could either do it here in the init function, or you can just leave init empty and then have another line here where you add cube1 dot physicsMotion dot linear velocity, and then you add coordinates x, y, z. So let's try that. This would be the red cube. Cube 1 is the red cube. So let's press play. Whoa, actually it did move. Okay then. Okay, so that didn't do what I thought it would do. Okay, we'll just use that as a teaching moment. So apparently you can add physicsMotion to a static entity. So let's just skip that for now. I'll find out later for you. If anyone has any tips on that, let me know in the comments. But let's move on. I want to move on to cube 2, and I want to demonstrate the physics a little bit more in detail. So let's try that. So I added the physicsBody and I added the physicsMotion. And I want to start by demonstrating what happens if I put 1 on the x-coordinate. So that would be the yellow cube. And please ignore this. I'm still trying to figure out how I can make this thing disappear. So you can see the yellow cube kind of just bounced a little bit to the right. So I applied a force on it. What happens if I apply a bigger force on it? Let's say 8. Okay, I guess it. Try that again. It looks like it hit the green one. Hit the green cube. The green cube bounced off. Let's try applying 8 to the y position, the y-axis. Oh, it just bounced way up in the air, which makes sense because we're applying a force upwards. 8 bounced way up in the air. I mean, we can make that number 2, and it just kind of like went a little bit up in the air, came down because of gravity. If we applied a negative force, maybe we could make it slam into the ground. I think it would slam into the ground and bounce up. Yep, that's what happens with the yellow cube. And then let's try changing the z position. Let's try an 8z. So as we know, the bigger the number in z, in theory, the more it would push into the room. And then if it was a negative number, it would push toward the user. So let's see if our theory is correct. Oh, that was the opposite. Actually, 8 is toward the user. Okay, I was wrong. So negative 8 would be towards the back of the room. So let's try that. Yep, and it pushed all the way to the back of the room. So as you can see, just messing with linear velocity. In the next video, I want to go into angular velocity and see the differences with that. But for now, basically we're applying forces to our objects, and we're starting to learn about movement in the physics in reality kit. As you can see, I also had movement on the green cube. That's because I had already applied these forces to the green cube also. So, but I had no velocity, 0, 0, 0, so it just fell straight to the ground. And unless the yellow cube was interacting with it, which is why the green cube bounced all the way to the right that one time. So you can see we're already getting objects interacting with each other. So if I make this 0 and I make the x 8, it should bounce into the green cube and kick the green cube off to the right, which is what it did. The force was transferred. So that's another thing we learned about the physics in reality kit, is that the force can be transferred. What happens? Will the force be transferred to the red cube, I wonder? Probably not, because it's a static cube, and that's right. So it makes sense why the kinematic object would not interact with the static object. It's according to the Smart Penguins video, static objects can be in sleep mode, so it would get unwanted behavior if you're trying to move objects against each other. And I could be wrong about that, so let me know in the comments if you know anything. But that's my video for today. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe. Thanks.